my Catholic priest, he talked about the Romans having vomitoriums.
Yep.
This is not a joke.
That's absolutely
So
true.
they could go and then eat more.
Purge and get some more.
Yeah.
But in this context, Lewis goes a different direction with it, which I thought was very interesting. I thought it was interesting that he said that they had basically scrubbed the sermons of any discussion of gluttony during the 100 years prior to when he wrote this, which I thought was very interesting. It's not a sin we talk about. And so I think it's interesting that he takes it and twists it a little bit. So what kind of gluttony does he discuss?
Reverse gluttony.
Reverse gluttony. Okay. Explain. How does that work?
I only eat these things. I eat very, very little. I'm better than you because I eat less.
So what's the sin behind it? When we talk about the excess, it's all about me.
It's focus on self.
It's all the what do I want?
Yeah.
Not what's been given to me. The discussion of the mother in the restaurant, to me, was the one that kind of took me off guard.
And this big word querulousness, which is, I had to look it up, historical, is it right? Habitual complaining, which I'm good at that.
We don't ever do that. Never happened. Anybody else feel very convicted by this chapter?
In so many ways.
Yes, I remember.
I mean, I relate to, well, I was gonna say to her a little bit, but not exactly. I
How
mean,
so?
I'm not, I like the, I don't want my, server to feel any, angst or anything like that, but, or actually, I'm not even talking about restaurants, just in general, food, it's like, ugh, no, I can't eat that, ugh, I should not eat that. Why do we always have this unhealthy stuff? Oh my God. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go a direction that could be unpopular. Well, I can't have that. That's got X in it. That's
Exactly.
got Y.
All
in it.
that.
I
All
can't
that.
do that. And again, legitimate allergies and legitimate medical conditions aside, the whole focus of, I mean, the classrooms where you can't have a single thing with nuts in it because somebody in the classroom might have a nut allergy. Which again is not necessarily illegitimate, I mean that could happen, but it's my predilection or my preference is going to change how everyone else around me must behave.
Well, yes.
That to me is exactly what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Allergies is not just skipping that one thing. It can be in the air, so that you
Understood.
gotta consider that.
Understood.
Yeah, quite often people think, this has this in it, just don't eat that. No, the whole thing is contaminated. I mean, if they're allergic, it can do them in.
So I guess again, not disagreeing with that. That does happen, and that is a real thing. I think there's a whole side discussion of why is that much more prevalent now than it was 50 years ago, and what have we done in society that's created that? That's a different discussion.
Well, yeah, that is.
That's a whole. But I guess the bigger concern that I have is, in my mind, the way I look at it, and again, maybe this is me taking on the mother's role to some extent. If I have that problem, if I have that issue, it's my responsibility to deal with it. It's not my responsibility, it's not everyone else's responsibility to fix it for me.
Well,
And that's an interesting twist.
I worked in a restaurant for a long time when I was growing up, and they have these secret recipes, and the chefs won't tell you, and these people said, no, that's a secret, and I said, you could kill somebody with your secrets here. And they would put peanut butter in something
Oh,
like
sure.
egg rolls, and they do not wanna tell you this. I mean, people die because of this. They don't understand that.
No, and again, like I said, there are legitimate medical reasons, but I also know that there are a number of people in the world today that some of these things have gone from being a medical issue for a small minority to being in vogue. It's in vogue to be vegan or vegetarian or to avoid gluten or to avoid this or that or the other thing. And it's a whole, I mean, to me, the question is always, okay, all the people who say, well, I can't have gluten. Okay, can you not have gluten because you're celiac? Or can you not have gluten because you're trying to lose weight? I mean, that's a world of difference between those two things. So again, it's I'm not bringing this up to call anybody out specifically, but it's we need to all look at ourselves and say, are we committing the sin of gluttony by delicacy by demanding X, Y, and Z? I mean, we all have, how many people in here have their favorite type of coffee or their favorite type of drink of whatever case?
Right.
And you won't have anything but that.
Oh, you just said coffee. That was it.
Now you're getting personal.
Sorry. I told you this could get uncomfortable.
I
What, it was in the cup.
I was wondering about on my temper. I've been thinking about the ember beyond the sea is the spring springable daily C.S. Lewis. The Chronicles of Narnia, worshiping God the Father as the ultimate creator and ruler of all worlds, including and of he was in essence constantly beyond an extent as of the world. He is father of Aslan and of the deep maggot.
Yep. I tell you what, Brian, let's hold off, because we're not talking about Narnia right now, we're talking about Screwtape. So let's focus on this book instead, but we can talk about that after. Go ahead, Lily.
Oh, when I used to be in charge of food service, when the German bell choir came the first time, there wasn't a single request for anything special. I mean, I was used to gluten-free, vegetarians and all this sort of stuff. And then I talked to Paulette, who was doing it now, and the bell choir came again, and I said, it was such a joy just to not have to deal with anything. I could do anything. And she said, oh, that's not what it is now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she had a whole list, of things certain ones couldn't avoid.
It does strike me that, again, is there a greater prevalence of certain allergies and certain sensitivities now than there was in the
I
past?
think so.
Probably. But there's also, I always go back to how much of that is medical and how much of that is in your mind. It's mental or it's what's in vogue for that time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Historically, over all the generations, probably until this century or the one before, man never had enough to eat. They didn't have overweight, good like 1500s or 1600s or blah. But when wealth was available, when people began to become wealthy, being big was what you wanted to be because it showed how rich you were and how important you were.
I think of the
Well, Henry
adjective.
VIII would be a good example, but I mean, he was a king anyway, so.
Well, I think of the adjective of Rubenesque. In Renaissance paintings, Rubenesque meant healthy and it's these women that were
It wasn't
hard.
money,
Well,
it was
that-
prestige.
And that meant you were rich and you were well-to-do.
Yeah.
But
And
again,
women.
so, well, let's talk about, so that was the gluttony of excess, and now we're talking about the gluttony of delicacy. But again, it goes back to what's the ultimate problem? What's the ultimate sin? And I think John hit it on the nail on the head, is it's a focus on what I want. It's a focus on me. It's a focus on self, not a focus on how that affects anyone else. Do we ever use the I just want that he talks about? Well, I just want a cup of tea. I just want a cup of coffee. I just want. Do we ever think about how that affects anybody else? I know I have griped myself at sitting in Starbucks waiting on my coffee. Why does it take these people so stinking long? What's going on?
Well,
It
yeah.
doesn't even occur to me. So I'm as guilty of it as the next person. Not much more to say about gluttony. I mean, I think that one's fairly straightforward. The next one's where it gets interesting. So what's God's intention for love, marriage, and sex? What's supposed to be the focus?
In the book, he talks about creating like this organism, and then he talks about the family and creating this family through, marriage, love, and sex, and how that's the intention, and it's a lot deeper than just being in love. Like there's more spiritual.
Others, go ahead.
I was in a seminary many years ago, and the leader connected it to the creation account and marriage and creation
Right.
account, that when God said be fruitful and multiply, that it's not the same. Fruitfulness is not necessarily having children. He related it to the fruit of the Spirit, the fruits of the Spirit. That is to be what we seek to have in a marriage relationship.
Any others? Think about what's the intention? What was God's initial intention for love,
Yeah.
and for marriage, and for sex?
The two shall become one flesh.
Two shall become one flesh.
That
Why does that matter?
the love of marriage is not something that is a feeling that comes upon you. It is a commitment, and it is active and intentional. So when in the book they're talking about, being in love as being the force of what drives a marriage, is in this emotion that you feel rather than the commitment that is behind the marriage, then you can justify any number of offenses against the unity of marriage because, well, I don't feel this strong emotion behind it, and so therefore the actual commitment is not as important, whereas it's actually the other way around, that it's the commitment that drives your actions and the force behind your marriage.
So how does Scripture describe being in love, and this whole notion of being in love?
He often did this comparison where it's like, as he said, like one flesh versus a couple. And being in love is like, you have this feeling where you like this person, you're in love with them, and that's it. If you're not in love, then any idea of marriage is just repulsive, and if you don't feel these things, then it's just disagreeable.
I thought it was interesting, and I don't know if anybody else was taken aback by it, but the first time I read this, to get into what he said, that they've used the romantic poets and the romantic literature to convince people that the foundation for marriage is love. So my question is, what was it before that? I mean, for us, that seems like a very odd concept, because that's not what it's supposed to be.
Well, there's all the arranged marriages,
Okay,
there's, I feel like back in the day, you know, without online dating and traveling the world, the
you're dating.
candidates were
Yep.
slim,
Yeah.
so, I don't know.
I wasn't gonna say it, Steve, but, I mean,
Candidates are
Small
slim.
candidate
I
pool.
like that.
That's what
it was,
happens.
it wasn't a, what did they say, it's not a choice, that's a lack of options.
For the men, for the women, or the women for the men?
Yeah, I'm done.
Good.
I'll get you a donut, Maureen.
But,
Do need some comfort.
but seriously, to our ears, that whole discussion sounds off.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean it's not the basis for marriage? What do you mean love is not the basis for marriage? What is the basis for marriage? And again, I think it goes back, I think Jackson hit the nail on the head, it's the commitment. It's not the feeling, it's the intention.
Feelings come and go,
They do indeed.
and they come back again. Yep.
And they can, to me, it's the expectation that the feeling will create the commitment, as opposed to the commitment creating the feeling. And that's what we've gotten twisted, I think.
And.
So if we focus on, and again, I think, and not to drive this point home too much, but if we focus on the feeling, and again, if the feelings come and go, why do you think we have such a high divorce rate? I mean, it's well, I fell out of love, go on to the next one.
It's all about my needs not being met.
Bingo. And it's amazing what happens if you focus on the other's needs instead of your own. The commitment grows. The feelings come later.
Every once in a while you'll hear, marriage, it's a 50-50. Not really, it's 100.
It's 100.
Yeah.
And it's, okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. Because to me, he mentioned briefly, and I think it was in this chapter as well as the next one, but he mentioned briefly how that the notion of the creation of the family, or the notion of the union between a husband and a wife, was mirrored by God's own nature. So when you talk about it being 100, isn't that what God is?
Before we got to this point, there was a lot of humor and stuff, but this chapter is like, boom.
Oh, it's,
He's really hitting on his central, the most wicked thing he said was he's talking about the philosophy of hell, kind of laying it out and saying that if you're going to be doing things the devil's way, you're going to be in competition with everybody all the time, and it's about weak losing out to the strong, and he really attacks the notion that God is capable of loving people. And he was talking about the evil coming out of Screw Tape here is in this chapter. He's really coming at it strong. That we can't. He says God does not really love people. That there's some other secret motive, and it's like that's the wildest thing I've ever heard. I mean, that they refuses to believe in love.
But it's like, that's not just, to me it's not, and again, I'm glad you touched on the notion of the philosophy of hell. Was anybody else struck at the beginning that when you get into the third chapter here, you get into chapter 19, this whole argument about, well, did you show my letter to anybody, and of course I didn't really mean this, and I didn't really mean that, and I didn't really mean this. Why that paragraph of back and forth of, I know I wrote that, but I really didn't mean it, so make sure, don't show this to anybody, and this is whole, why is that in there? What's the purpose of that?
It shows that even the satanic forces have doubts and questions. They are questioning, why does God love? Satan in fact invites God, lay your cards on the table. Tell me what is the motive of your loving us. I can't figure it out. It's true human visit. He can't figure it out. I slipped by mere carelessness into saying that the enemy, God, really loves the humans. He is himself questioning it, which is not a bad notion. Satan in fact questions God himself.
And that whole discussion of, that in the initial rebellion of Satan against God, this was the crux of it. What do you mean you love these people? What do you mean you want the best for them? What's really going on? Tell me what's really happening here.
Well, Screwtape wants you to think that it's about one person or demon being dominant over another, and that's all that's possible.
I mean, that,
And
to me, that
he doesn't want cooperation.
That whole discussion.
The cooperation is what makes it all work.
That whole discussion at the beginning of that chapter, to me, is a snapshot of Satan's view of love. That it's distrust. It's I've got to protect myself. Everybody's out to get me. It's all competition.
Mm-hmm. And I need to know everything.
And I need to know everything.
Right.
How much has the world twisted the notion of love into the satanic version of love?
Gosh.
I mean, nowadays you see a lot of words just kind of redefined. You see the word hateful thrown in front of anything that just disagrees with an opposition. Like, if you just don't agree, it's like, oh, you're hateful. And like what people say is love, I'm like, that sounds more like lust, or more like, how does this help me? So there's a lot of redefining words, and if you redefine words, then okay, I guess anything can mean anything, or nothing means, no words mean anything anymore if you start changing the definitions whenever you want to support your agenda.
So love is now competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a husband and wife wanting the best for each other and a partnership that is built on mutual success. It's now, well, I'll support you so long as you support me. But if you withdraw it, I'm out. If that changes, I'm out. Again, there's not one flesh there. And again, I keep going back to that it's got to be 100-100. You got to be all in, because that's the way the Trinity works. That was Christ's nature.
Right.
I mean, just think of Christ's nature, of fully God and fully man. If that was not 100-100, if that was 50-50, how would that worked out?
Yeah. And also with animal stuff, don't look at that can be other side of blue water wall.
It can. I mean, the notion of love that God professes is, I mean, what's agape? We're taught repeatedly sacrificial love. So it's an action. And Satan has no concept of that. In both 18 and 19, the whole discussion is, how can that possibly be? You can't possibly be serious that you're creating a being whose ultimate goal is the denial of self. Bart.
A long time ago, I don't know that any of you were here, maybe somebody was here, but we had a speaker, and his name was Gordon, and he wrote a little book, and it's called Gordon Takes a Wife, and he was quite a character, but his premise was exactly what you're speaking of, is that his wife's name was Emily. And if Emily needs a Kleenex, it is my job to get that for her.
Right.
I mean, it was that basic. It was whatever Emily needs, it is my job and my responsibility and my commitment to her to get that for her. It was really quite astounding.
That's why my husband's first 2 marriages failed, because that's what the wives wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it has to go both ways.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was the one who was the speaker and I mean, Emily was here, but he was the one who was doing most of the speaking. I think she also did have something to say, but he was the primary speaker, and I think he is the author of the book.
Yeah, but I mean, but take those 2 comments together. I don't think the marriages failed because he didn't hold up his end. If you have a husband who wants to nothing but to do, and then the wife's job, and the wife sits back and says, "Great, I'll just sit here and let you do,"
Yeah.
then it's gonna fail.
When we got married, we've been married 35 years, I guess, 34 years. When we were dating, and we knew we were gonna get married, and I said one day, I said, "Richard, other than my great good looks here, what attracted you to me?" Because he's through a lot. And he said, "You didn't need me to make you happy.
Okay.
You are happy in yourself." Said, the others, they're a bucket with a no bottom, and you keep throwing in this and that, and it never ends, and that's not love." So I was satisfied with that one. That was okay.
Well, it's kind of like that movie years ago with, I can't remember who was it, Tom Cruise or somebody, where the line that stands out to me is, "You fulfill me." And, you know, we're looking, better to have 2 people who are already pretty, you know, together than expecting somebody else to complete them.
Again, it's to me, it's the idea, if we spend our lives expecting, we're gonna be disappointed. But if we spend our lives desiring to do that for someone else, we're much more likely to be fulfilled, which is oddly counterintuitive, but that's the way God works.
Let's say that again.
You're gonna make me say that again.
Oh,
I don't know
I'm sorry.
if I can. I'm gonna pull up the recording and replay it. No, but if you're spending your entire life expecting everything, you're going to be disappointed. Because there's never gonna be enough. But if you're spending your whole life desiring to do, you're much more likely to be fulfilled.
And it backs up on the discussion of the mother in the restaurant. She's expecting things to be perfect in her way, and no tolerance if it's not really. I mean, but she's superficially tolerant, but not really tolerant.
She's
It's about
politely
her.
tolerant, but not actually tolerant.
Right.
Tolerance is interesting. To me, tolerance is the word that I have an issue
Oh,
with.
no, don't even.
Tolerance means you're not good enough, but I'll be okay with it.
Yeah, good.
Think about what that means. Think about the ego behind that. I set the bar. You're gonna try,
Exactly.
you're not gonna make it, but I'm setting the bar.
The perfection bar.
Why?
So when you hear in the world about you have to be tolerant, think about what that's saying.
Tolerance has turned into anything goes.
Yeah.
And you can't criticize me or what I do, or my viewpoint.
I mean, it's, as much as we talk about the confusion in the world, to me, there's not a lot of confusion. Those that wish to pervert what God has created tell you very clearly what they believe and why they believe it. We have an entire movement that's called pride. I don't know how much more plain you can be.
What?
We had an entire movement about tolerance. I'll just accept however good you think you're gonna be. It's not gonna meet my standards. My, me.
What?
The world tells you exactly where they're coming from. The whole notion, the only thing I could go through in all of chapter 18, the only phrase that kept coming back to me was zero-sum game. In order for me to win, you have to lose.
I guess so.
That there's only a finite amount of stuff, and I can't get unless somebody else loses. Whether that's love, whether that's money, whether that's whatever the case may be.
Well, that's the 50-50 scenario.
Satan's world is a zero-sum game. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, forgive me.
No, you're good.
That's the 50-50 scenario as opposed to the 100%.
That it's got to equal out to 100.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
100%, it's irrelevant. It's all up there.
It goes back to the whole being in love section. Well, I'm giving my 50, but they're not giving their 50. So yeah, but marriage is marriage is an image of Christ in the church, and Christ does not forsake the church. You know, obviously we are His children, and we consistently fail to meet His standards. But Christ is steadfast in maintaining His love for us and continuing to show His love for us in ways that we can't imagine. And if marriages are an image of that relationship, of that we are, as the church, are the bride of Christ, then our marriages should also reflect that commitment, that we don't forsake our spouse when they might not meet up to what we might have in our head as our expectation of them, or when they are imperfect, but that we continue to love them and cherish them as gifts from God.
Hey, Tony?
Yeah.
Let me back up on what you're saying here. To me, the entire summary of all this is kind of like love is not a quid pro quo.
Right.
It is not a quid pro quo.
That's correct.
So it's the 100, John, like you're saying. It's agape. It's irrelevant what you do. I'm not into the works for you. I'm doing it because I love you. Okay, I'm not doing it because I'm expecting something back from you, even though I am all the time. But
Darling.
that's kind of what I'm
May need
getting
you
at.
two to stay after. No, but you're absolutely right. And again, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna piggyback on something that Jackson said. If a marriage is supposed to be a mirror of Christ in the church, one of the things that happens in a marriage that fails is one or both of the partners does something which so offends the other that it's unforgivable. And that becomes the end of the marriage. Now switch that analogy to Christ and the church.
Okay, that's right.
When have we ever done something so unforgivable that Christ says that's it, that's the end? That's where the analogy is supposed to go.
Yeah.
Complete love, complete sacrifice, complete forgiveness.
Unending.
I don't think that's
Unending.
possible.
Say again?
That's not possible.
It's
There
not,
is
I
nothing you could
don't disagree.
possibly do.
Not in and of ourselves. You're correct. Not in and of ourselves. I mean, we don't have that perfect capability. But that's the objective. That's what Christ sets out as the model. So it's up to us to rely on him to get us through those moments where we can't do it. I totally agree with you.
If you can't forgive yourself, then you can't repent. I mean, that's where it begins. If you can't open up, and then having a partner isn't gonna help you.
True.
I think that's to me that's one thing I've learned from the Bible. And that, you know,
Right.
if you're single, you know, you hope to you know, meet somebody interesting, but without that you still have God, and that's where forgiveness comes from.
Well, but I think that also goes back to, Bonnie, what you were saying is that, and to some extent, what Linda was saying,
Now.
if you don't have that complete fullness in Christ, if you're not already completely satisfied with what Christ has given you, trying to find a mate to make you feel whole is never going to work, because it's never going to be the fulfillment that you need. But again, that's what the world teaches us. You have to find somebody that completes you. That's what we're taught.
Right.
But again, going into 19, that's the type of love that confused Satan. That's why the satanic view of love is so twisted. Because that notion of complete selflessness, of complete sacrifice is ridiculous from Satan.
So,
The whole notion of the rebellion, again, the whole section where he said that's where he went and wanted an audience with God and said, okay, what's your real plan? I wish and I think he said something to the effect of, and I'll have to find the exact verse, but I want to understand what you're trying to do. And God's response was, I wish you could.
What do you want in return? And you're keeping it a secret from me.
yeah.
What do you want
Right.
in return?
And God's response was simply,
Nothing.
I wish you could understand how simple this is.
Right.
The simplicity of the theology of the cross is what is confusing.
Dude, I'm gonna walk up.
Here is the line from the book. Satan admitted he felt a real anxiety to know the secret of why God loved. God replied, I wish with all my heart that you did. And
What page is that?
this book is page 100.
Okay.
In this book.
Okay.
But think that was the cause of the rebellion in heaven.
Because Satan couldn't understand it. Ask yourself, can we understand it even today? Can you ask yourself, why does God love me and you and you and you and you and billions of people in the world? Why does God do that? I can't fathom it myself, but he does. End of story.
In one of his other works, I want to say it was in Mere Christianity, Lewis writes, if there was no other person on earth, God would have done exactly what he did just for me. He still would have done it.
Yeah, just like you did for Noah.
That's the depth of the love.
And also was my David also.
Yep.
On
Alright.
101, Tony, he says at the top, members of his faction have frequently admitted that if we ever came to understand what he means by love, the war would be over and we should re-enter heaven.
Which is an impossibility, but
Which is an impossibility, but it's quite a thought.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
But again, that to me is the interesting part, is that's the separation between good and evil, is just that understanding of what sacrificial love really means.
And I've been thinking about Apple stuff. Do you think Apple is of the other side
Of the wall?
blue, wall,
I do.
wall.
I do. We can talk about that after I do. All right. Any other, I think that we've driven that into the ground, but it's so complex, but it's so simple. Any other tidbits that anybody else got out of those chapters that they wanna talk through?
I'm just gonna go home and get my beating.
Only get an extra hour.
Oh, boy.
Just kidding.
Never argue. All right. Well, as I said, we can break a little early if need be, but remember, if you haven't got it, make sure you pick up a revision for the last 3 classes. Again, we're gonna be going into 4 chapters for the next 3 weeks, 4 chapters per week. So we'll be digging a little bit deeper into this. Only 11 chapters left,
Yay.
and a pretty cool book.
I have something funny to say
Please.
about unconditional love.
Yeah.
My husband was walking our dog in the neighborhood and he met another man who was walking and they talking about dogs and how much they love us and he didn't even know this guy, just somebody walking. And the guy said, well, here's unconditional love. Go home and put your wife and your dog in the trunk of your car and come back in an hour, open it and see who's happy to see you.
Oh.
That's good, that's good, that's great.
On that note,
Open up.
just if you take anything else from this class, just remember God could lock you in the trunk of the car. We'll see what
Just
happens.
kidding.
My dog and her, it won't fit in my
All
trunk.
right. Anybody want to close us in prayer?
Oh, that's funny.
Any volunteers?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Father, thank you so much for this, this group and this teacher and opening your wisdom to us through an author like this. We praise and thank you for the food we're going to eat today, for the shelter of our homes.